Hello everybody, this is Ken Faulkner, and I'm back with another knife video. Not a normal one, but a lot of my knife content comes from waking up at 3 in the morning and my brain just going off and not being able to stop thinking about things. This usually lasts for maybe, I don't know, half hour, you know, hopefully only a half hour, something like that. But yeah, I've been talking about, and the kind of plan is to go through all the knives that I bought this year, and it really kind of makes me think about like my progression in knives and where I came from and where I'm going to type thing. So then I thought about, well, I got to do a video. Well, I don't have to, but I want to do a video. And I really have liked knives since early days. Most of those knives from the early days are gone. Wherever they went, either got trashed or disappeared or whatever. I was young. I think I remember, and it's just vague. It's not like I got stuff handed down from my dad or whatever. But I think I remember. It's interesting because it was my mom. Um, it's interesting because I had an older sister. She was a Girl Scouts, and my mom was a Girl Scout leader, and so didn't know what to do with me during that time. So I'd be out there, hanging around the Girl Scouts or whatever, and probably just to keep me from being such a pain in the butt that she couldn't, do what she needed to do. Ended up with a Girl Scout knife. You know how you had the Boy Scout knives, right? But I guess Girl Scouts had knives, right? It's early days. I don't know how old I was. I must have been old enough to have a knife, so maybe 5. I don't know. Back in those days, we didn't have seatbelts in the cars. We did road trips around in a station wagon. We were all playing games in the back of it without any seatbelts. And my mom reminded me of that after the whole seatbelt comes up. But we never had. It was great, but man, so I don't know if knives were that much a concern back then. I don't know if you can get kicked off of YouTube. Well, they didn't have YouTube back then for giving a kid a knife. But anyway, yeah, I was pretty young, and it was a folder, and it was very cool. And so that's gone. Okay, I wish I had that knife still now. Looking back, of course, hindsight's 2020. But yeah, I do have some knives from younger and not quite as young. This one's pretty young. I mean, this is back when I was in with YMCA, Cub Scouts. I never really went into the Boy Scouts, but YMCA, we go camping, backpacking, stuff like that. And at some point, I ended up with this knife. I can't remember exactly when, but you're camping, especially backpacking. You got to go light, right? So I got all my utensils for eating, and just about everything else you could possibly think of. With can openers, bottle openers, saws, big old knife, pretty cool. Scissors, big scissors. And they got this thing here. It's kind of like because it only folds out that far. So if everything else is closed, then it's like one of those like a scythe almost, right? So you're ready. I don't know, ice pick. I don't know. It's got the what do you call it? The chisel grind on one side. Anyway, then you got the files and the corkscrew. Of course, as a young kid, you need to open your bottle of wine, which didn't happen. But the awl with the little threading and another awl without the threading thing. So yeah, I've had this one forever. It used to have a leather case that you put it in, and it snapped on, and then it would go on your belt, and you'd carry it around. So yeah, it was early days. Then I kind of got into a lot of movies and kind of inspired by movies, action movies, always big in the action stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of this came. I remember this one. There's a amusement park called Knott's Berry Farm, and they had an Old West section there. And believe it or not, I bought this at I've been to that. It's actually a gun shop. I had never bought a gun there, but of course I was young. I couldn't get a gun at that time, but I could get a knife. And the thing is, I bought this and carried it in a bag at the park. I mean, I was able to do that. Nowadays, since I've been back there, because it's still around, it's got a lot more roller coasters and stuff like that now. But nowadays, you can buy them, but they will have to mail them to you because everything is and I think it's because of people. I don't think we misbehaved as much, and so it's unfortunate. We say we're a free society, but the freedom only is as good as our ability to behave ourselves in that freedom, right? As soon as somebody misbehaves, then the freedom goes away. But anyway, that was kind of cool, and I was into daggers because it's like movies and things like that, spy war movies, all that kind of thing. I was also kind of into Western stuff, so this guy, remember, and I can't tell you what the name of the movie was. I'm not like that. I don't have all those stats. But this is Arkansas toothpick, and you can't even really see it anymore. And I sharpened it up. It's sharpenable, but it's funny because the tip is like rounded, which is probably a good thing because otherwise it probably would have broken off by now. But it can stab. Arkansas toothpick, right? Big old thing, right? Look at how big that is. I don't think the measuring stick will even measure this thing. It's just, maybe it's a foot long. Maybe it's, yeah, it's about, okay. It's the blade is a little under a foot, like 11.5 inches. So, yeah, I remember seeing it in the movie. This thing flexes too. It's got a flex. Probably a good thing too, but it's so thin, it probably would snap otherwise, but it's got a flex to it. But it flexes back. It's still straight, even after all the abuse of a young man being, stupid with it. Not that was me. No, it was me. Never mind. And then this kid, big old buoy, dangler. So, back then I didn't care about blade steel, nothing. It was about what it looked like. And boy, this is a beefy thing, man. This probably weighs a pound. Big old beefy knife. I love this thing. I love it. Yeah, it definitely, sharpens up. I'm sure it's not great steel. I don't think it says what it is. And I'm sure it was really inexpensive. I mean, I didn't have a lot of money back then either because I wasn't working at the time. This is back, maybe preteen, something like that, 13. But I kept it all these years. In the meantime, I had like a bunch of swords, like junk swords and stuff like that. A lot of those are gone. I still have some swords, but I'm not breaking out the swords today. I've kind of shown all that when I did my big collection video. Now, this is a placeholder. I had probably half a dozen kukris. They used to sell them down at the pier near here. I'm near the beach, and there's a really cool pier. We used to hang out there all the time. Had an arcade back before video games were on your phone or on your TV or whatever, computer screen. Arcade, we used to hang out there, and yeah, they had a store over there that sold them. I had a big monster one that was probably like 2 feet long, maybe more. This is a cool one though. This one actually came from the kukri house, and I got it more recently just because it's just, I still have a place in my heart for kukris. This was a really nice one. Kukri house is in Nepal, so this is a real deal. I mean, this is like, from what I can tell and what I've heard, they are very authentic about what they do. So, yeah, so that's just a placeholder because the other ones fell apart over time and they were junk and cheap and junk and fun. Big ones, small ones. I had so many. I just love those things. Another thing I like to do when I was a kid, because I was bored, is throw knives. And I remember at one point we had like an old door. We'd replace the door, I guess, in the house. An old door was sitting out there, so I put it up against the wall and just throwing it at it, and that thing ended up having all these big holes in it. Throwing stars, throwing knives, anything I could throw. Didn't do axes back then, but yeah, I had a bunch of them. These are two of the nicer ones. I threw away a lot of the junk ones that I had, but these are pretty good. Stainless steel, Japan. See, it's official. But they're not like knives like EDC or anything, right? Unless you're planning on throwing knives during your everyday carry. But yeah, just that kind of like not much handle, but it's good for when you throw. And I never was all that great. It's almost like a DLC because the way it gets the fingerprints. I'm sure it's not. But anyway, the way, I was never really that good, but, you can do the tip throw. Some people throw with a handle or whatever, but, you want it to slide out of your hand really well. And so, yeah, I just keep these around. This little case came with this one, but I just keep them both in here just to be able to find them in case I need to throw a knife. Don't really have too many places to throw in the apartment. The landlord doesn't really condone that behavior. But anyway, I digress all the time. I don't ever really make notes or, do a script on this stuff. But I do think about it for like a half hour at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, of course, back when I was growing up, this is when, it wasn't the same kind of thing with the ballets that you have now where everybody's throwing them up in the air and catching them on their neck, stuff like that. But this was back in the day when, you just opened and closed it, which I know how to do. I'm going to totally kill my phone if I try to do it right now, or the table, one or the other. The table's already kind of, ever since I started doing YouTube out here, tables had a little damage. Anyway, so I got a couple of these. This is one actually from back in the day. I remember going into one of the neighborhoods. It was more like a Japanese portion. Like in California, there's areas Japanese, Koreans, kind of have their own little kind of ish neighborhoods. Doesn't mean nobody else is there. I was a white kid going in there. But they had a liquor store out there. And you could buy these, even though they weren't, technically legal, I guess. I don't know how they, I guess they just, no one stopped them. It's kind of like those people that say, oh, it's not legal until you get caught. But they used to have these guys. This one's actually 440 stainless, so in Japan. So it's up in the game from Miami, USA. Valor. So I don't know what that means. The steel, obviously, it's Japan. I don't know if it was made in USA or that's just that's the company that brought them in, because clearly it has a Chinese writing on it. So, and it's Cho. So anyway, it's kind of a mutt, but it had the shiny. It was way more shiny back in the day, but yeah. Spent many hours just flicking it open and close, not really doing any crazy tricks, but that's it. But just a fun knife. And as a kid, I'm just spending my time playing with knives, having fun. So, moving on. I'm growing up. I'm getting older. Going to work. I'm actually going to work. And I had a few of these. This is just an example. You can see how beat up it is. I started in the office for a while, but they needed somebody to go out in the test department and do some actual work. And I was a young kid. We do 12-hour shifts, 24-hour shifts, and things like that to run some tests that we were doing. So they needed somebody young and unattached, no kids, no wife at the time. So I had. Built up my tools and all that stuff. Had a great time. Learned so much. It was awesome. But I always had a knife. Always carried a knife. That was where I really started doing EDC. At that point, man, this thing's really. And this is kind of the kind of knife that I would get. Again, here we go. Surgical steel from Taiwan. So the kind of knife, I'm already kind of showing that I got that fantasy kind of look that I like. Nice handle with a multicolored layered wood. And back lock. Classic. And so this is the kind of knife that I would have at work. I had multiple ones. I would break them. Using them at pry bars and all kinds of stuff. Running around the test pad out in the shop. So that was my time. Doing a couple of trips as well. That was my time out in the work of the working man, the guy that goes out there and gets dirty. And boy, I got dirty. I loved it. It was fun. But I ended up going back in the office later on, and I had so much value that I learned from that. Because there's nothing like doing things with your hands and actually physically doing it. And when you're thinking about it in the engineering world, you don't really have that practical knowledge. Yeah, that's interesting. I just realized how far off center this thing is. If you don't recognize this, is a CRKT. There you go. Serrated, partially serrated. I was getting in. I started in high school martial arts and was really into it at the time. I wonder if I can tighten that thing up without taking too much time. I was really into martial arts and all that kind of thing, and boy, I could get into that too, but we don't have the time. I size nunchucks, again a lot of legal stuff, throwing stars and ninja stuff and all kinds of crazy. Oh, that's a little better. Not perfect. But anyway, this is called the Cruiser. I think they still sell them even now. Yeah, it's still way off. But yeah, I went. I was actually on a trip visiting my folks out in Florida, I believe, and I went to Ace Hardware store and got this guy. And it has this G10 that's very grippy, and I was looking for something tactical. I was like, martial arts, be ready all the time in case ninjas attack or whatever. And I, later on in life, I realized, hey, the ninjas aren't really attacking, but still had fun with martial arts. It's great activity, exercise. Boy, did so many years until it got too painful for my old body. So not really. Maybe I'll get back into it at some point, but right now I'm taking a break. So anyway, I thought this tactical, it seemed like it was good. I'm thinking about something that you can grip, and I think that's so important. And this has a really good grip. I don't think the steel is anything to write home about. Don't know if it even says what it is, but I'm sure it's something in the low CRs or something like that. I don't know. D2 maybe, could be, but they don't say anything about it. But I didn't care at that point. I didn't know that you should worry about it. Surgical steel seemed like a great thing back then. But serrations, you're thinking it looks tactical. So that was the whole thing with that one. That was like one of my very first in the pocket with a clip type carry knives. Then I started to, I did some training, some knife training. It was fun. And they talked about Spyderco. And this also is representative because I had the early Tenacious that I gave away earlier because I got the M4 one now. Then I put the titanium scales on it. But it was basically the G10 ACR version. And I got that. And I was like, really, that was when normal days, other than at work, I would carry and have it, and I was ready to use my techniques, but it's not like I'm out looking for a fight. In fact, with martial arts, you learn that you don't want to get into a fight because when you're sparring with people, it doesn't matter. Even like a lot of times you say that the white belts are the most dangerous people to spar with because they don't know what they're doing. And they can you can get caught. Anybody can get caught at any time. So the best way to defend yourself is to never get into a situation, and that's what I've been. Maybe I wasn't so good at that at high school, but after when I got a little older and smarter, that's my motto. Again, martial arts, so the karambit, and this one was expensive. I had to shell out some money for it, but man, that was cool. Spyderco and a karambit, come on, that's so awesome. I like this knife. I still do, man. The deployment, it is not deep carry. That's what you see outside your pocket. That's not subtle. And it's almost like you're saying, hey, look, I got a knife. But anyway, two good knives. This is Carahawk if you're interested. I think you still get them. But like I say, they're not cheap. I don't know how I managed to pay for that. I don't know how I did it. Then I started going for the carry at work thing. And this still really didn't know much. I have several of these. I just got a couple out for examples. At that time, I was going to carry at work, so I wanted to get something small because I was like worried that everybody was going to freak out, and probably some people do even now because I carry everything now. But you know, I've been there long enough, and I guess they're not looking to get rid of me. But you know, and everybody knows I'm not an aggressive guy. So anyway, I got knives, and I talk to people about them, tell them about, hey, these are tools. These are great to have. You know, you never realize how many things you can use a knife for during the day until you have knives that you carry every day. And yeah, you know, somebody says, how are we going to open this box? I know how to do that. So the squid, very cool little guy. This is great. I mean, it's all steel construction, very inexpensive, and it's got good action. I mean, really surprising. I'm pretty sure it's on washers of some kind, probably like a Teflon washer or something. But it's just always been a great knife, really good knife. And then the Kershaw leak, you know, assisted, yeah. But yeah, it's it just, you look at that shape and you think, man, if I ever need a point on a knife, this is the point to have. Of course, you hear about people, I've had this a long time, never broke the tip off, but you hear about so many people having broke off the tip. I think I read the reviews when I bought this thing, and some people were saying that already. Yeah, kin onion, so pretty legit, very thin, very small, very inconspicuous. That's what I was going for back then. And then I started kind of getting into bigger knives. I got the Reich, the P801F. I'd already started watching some YouTube and seeing things. 14C28N. You know, started looking at YouTube and watching all these cool fancy knives, but you know, still not spending a lot. This is a very budget knife and very, very good knife. You know, these brands. Here's one that's like that fantasy look, F and Grow. You know how they are, and it was just how I was back then. This is the one that I've mentioned before that I had to do. I tried to take it apart. I thought I was all cool, and I'm going to clean it out and work on the action. And yeah, stripped it out. I think one side was actually a captured pivot, even though they both had Torx bits. And I overdid it and stripped it and stuff like that. So I made this into a flathead, if you can see. It's, you know, good thing I didn't spend a lot of money on it, but it still works. I mean, you know, I still keep it in the collection. It's not something I'm going to give away, put in a giveaway, because it's already kind of like, you know, you can see I cut into the G10 there. But hey, you know, and it's good memory, right? This is all about memories of early days of knife collecting. I still liked my, I got a bunch of daggers, but I did a video on it a while back. But I saw that Kershaw had this one, and it was a Hinderer design. Decimus. Even says Hinderer right there, Hinderer design. 8CR, there you go. And yeah, I didn't worry about steels at that time. I still don't worry about them that much. But anyway, it's a cool knife, little dagger. It's got this like rubbery kind of grippy thing. Yeah, it doesn't get much pocket time anymore, but I still like it. And it's assisted, so that's kind of what happens there. So then I'm still early days, but I am starting to get into real collecting and watching more. I watched a lot of Blade HQ, and I'd see all the stuff that they can be coming out with, right? So this is still one of the cheaper brands, but a little bit, in my mind, it's always been more the higher end, cheaper brands. Sistivian kind of in the same range too, but the Gonzo, Firebird. So you can, you know, get that cool, got some good style in there on the G10, you know, inset. I don't know how much these are, probably like 30, 40. But yeah, good knife. Does it say what steel it is? Nope. Yeah, so this could be D2, could be 8CR, could be something like that. But Gonzo, I mean, good action. You know, this is where I'm really starting to see a knife with good action. So that was one of the ones from these early getting into actual regular brands days. Put that over there. I was going out on trips for work, and I was at this point, I'm like a little obsessed with knives. And so I'm always looking for something at the stores, you know. So I heard about the M16, and I saw this one. It was cheap, and Walmart and stuff like that. And I thought, hey, cool, I'll get one of those M16s. So later on, I found out that this is like one of their smaller versions. But anyway, yeah, CRKT still. Tip down, and it's cool look, little, and it's just a little souvenir from one of the trips. It's got Teflon washers. I try to work on the action on this thing. It's pretty good. I don't know how centered it is. Hey, not bad. Way better than the Cruiser. Yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't have the best action. It's kind of like soft, right? You can definitely fail it. And even when you flick it out, it doesn't even have a click. And access to the lock bar is pretty crappy. So yeah, but still, it's like a memory of that trip. And I remember I was looking at a buck 110, and I was looking at this one. Later on, I kind of like go, I should have got that buck 110, and I did. Eventually, I did get a buck 110. And then some of the other knives these were just kind of things that I bought, but these are the ones that people were talking about on YouTube, and so I needed to get it. The cool thing about this guy, the Feldspar, this is like the original liner lock. You know, it's got inside flat screws, everything like that, nice contoured. You can see there's a lot of wear on this, a lot of hand oils. I never bothered with cleaning that stuff. I like that patina. Blade's seen some serious work, you know, but still hanging in there. It's a great knife, and I love the fact that they've come out with a new version with the top liner lock. And I'm pretty sure once I get a chance, I'm gonna pick up one of those guys. This is a D2 steel, but yeah, I love this one still. I mean, when I was doing brand battles on the CJRB, this one won, and maybe partially. You can see a reversible clip with the inset. I think it's mainly because it's just such a great design. I mean, the contouring, great tip. You know, I've always been a fan of a tip on a knife. Don't always have to have it, but that's kind of like a great thing. It's just an excellent design. Then there's like the CEO, you know, and actually back then I was actually wearing pocket shirts, you know, like dress shirts at work. We've really got more and more casual, at least here in California. I don't know if it's like that across the states. And then, you know, it's an engineering thing, I think, because the bankers are all still in their suits and all that stuff in our building. So anyway, I got this one, so I figured, I just stashed this thing in my pocket on my shirt, and everybody will think I have a pen, but I got a knife. And so that was fun. I wish I had the flipper version, because the thumb stud, for one thing, being on one side, it's only the thumb actuation, and sometimes I have trouble with it. But it's the CEO, and it was all the rage. Got the carbon fiber. And it's like my first carbon fiber knife, I believe. I'm looking at these other ones. I think it was my first one with the shredded carbon fiber. Not the peel ply. I may have had a peel ply or something. But this is that real stuff, you know. So anyway, got onto that train, and I've had it ever since. Doesn't get carried a lot, and I don't usually have a shirt pocket anymore. So that's kind of part of it. Now we're getting a little bit more serious, and these are ones that are very enjoyable, and I was spending a little bit more money. Cormorant. I know a lot of people think it's ugly. I love the ting. Doesn't happen every time, but sometimes you get that. You can get that ting. Yeah, of course, it always refuses to do it when you want it to. But anyway, button. You know, I think this might have been my first button lock. And hollow grind. So many ways to actuate it, to open it. Back flipper, front flipper, over the top. Let's see if I can do this one. Nope. That's still my Achilles heel is this opening, and I'm sure I just don't have. There you go. I got it open, but I threw it. Not good. Anyway, and of course the middle finger flick and the thumb. So it works really well. Got the PlayStation thing on it. Played a lot of that when I was a kid. After, I talked about the arcades. That's where we started. But then after, we were able to get one at home. Of course, I got one. Left and right, recessed, fairly flat screws, a little grippy. I like the design. I as much as people say they don't like it, I do, and it's just the way it is. And it's not that I think that they're wrong. It's just that I like it, and I'm not going to not like it just because someone else doesn't. That's just the way I've always been. I just make my own decisions, right? I think that's what everybody should do. But I'm not telling anybody how to live their life. Then I started, hearing about these knives that everybody's got to have one, and I still wasn't buying them, but my girlfriend was always looking to get me something good. I've always been the kind of person where I will spend a bunch of money on my kids, my girlfriend, but I wouldn't spend money on myself. Knives have changed that, definitely, but that's really still the only thing I really like. Clothes. It's like I won't buy clothes. My girlfriend just gets on me about it. Says you got to spend money on yourself. So she was always looking for things to get me. And so there was one year she said, what knife would you like? And I said, I want one of these Civivi Elementums. And I've always liked wood handles. And this is that Caborsha wood. And it looks really cool with the black. Just very, very cool. Not reversible. Civivi, big name. Like, you saw a lot of CRKTs, and this is CJRBs and Gonzo and stuff like that. And then I started getting into some of the I don't know what you call it, the mainstream type brands. So Civivi, she bought this for me one year, and I was super excited. I feel like I made it. I'm like, I am a collector now. I am actually a knife collector now. Because, I did believe that that's what you needed to do in order to be a knife collector. So I guess in that way I was influenced. But I do like the knife, for sure. And then the bench bug out. Of course, since upgraded, this is the first one that I ever upgraded handles on, which I'm super thankful to go down that rabbit hole, because that is very satisfying and, for the most part, less expensive way to enjoy knives. Once you put the big money, because this is, Benchmade, big money into buying the knife, and then you throw in a few more bucks, especially this G10, which is a really good G10. What do they call that? The fade, crossfade, I think they called it. And it made it thicker, but still able to get to this by having this little area where it drops in thinner. It's just a great design from Flightanium. And everything else is stock on this bug out. But yeah, my girlfriend bought me this one too. So I do like, now I enjoyed the bug out before the scales, night and day afterwards. It's just really a knife that I do enjoy. And like I say, I do like bug out or Benchmade. It's just the price kind of is a blocker for me. It's like, that's just, price point. Price point is a real thing, right, guys? Girls, all of us. You get to a price point, no matter how expensive you go with knives, there's always something more that you can get, unless you're like, just so wealthy that you don't have to think about any purchase. But there's price point. There's always something. It could be $100. It could be $50. It could be $300. It could be $500. It could be $1,000. It could be, and mine has gone up over the years, but I still have a point. And if I'm going to spend more, in any case, I'm going to be more critical and more worried about it and thinking about it and all that kind of thing. So, yeah. Anyway, that's where I started. This was years ago, at least 3 years for like this round. Some of these other ones were like 5, 10. Well, no, is it? Yeah. Some of those are definitely 10 years ago, because time has really flied by. My girlfriend and I have been together for 9 years. And so it's like, wow, it's like a decade. And then, then I was back in my married days, which was like now probably almost 20 years ago. And because my kids are all, well, see, yeah, something like that. Um, yeah, because my kids are all in their 20s, upper 20s. Um, so anyway, yeah, now I'm going to be looking back at this year, which is going to be fun. Sorry, it's a long video, I just noticed. But that's the way these are going to be. So, like once a week, I'll do one of these, and then I'll do the regular ones in between. So, anyway, we should wrap it up. Enough talking. But thank you for indulging me. This is what I like to do with my channel, and people will still watch. So I enjoy it, and some people say they enjoy it. I mean, I believe them. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm always, my worst critic, and think, boy, if I could only be like Metal Complex, then I could be, do this for a living. But I'm not him, and I never will be. This is what I like to do. I don't know, maybe years from now when I have 1,000 subs, maybe some companies are going to start wanting to send me stuff. We'll see. And maybe I won't want to do that. Who knows? I don't know. But I like what I'm doing now. So thank you so much for being a part of it. I really appreciate you all so much. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.